Hello and welcome to The Economy Ruins Everything. My name is Walter. I'm going to be your host, and today is the first episode that is a teaching episode. And we're going to talk about debt. Now, in this journey of discovery that I'm going to take you on, we are going to look at the largest structures. Now, everybody's familiar with their debt. Credit card debt, mortgage debt, car loan debt, student loan debt. There's all different kinds of debt. Thing is, it's all one structure. And in order to understand what the hell is going on with our economy, as I like to say, you have to look at the biggest picture. So instead of looking at a solar system of information, we're going to be looking at a galaxy of information, except we're going to look at it from a distance so that it is all one big pile. Now, I have here the website for the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, and this is debt of non-financial sectors. And they've broken it down into 4 categories, each with a different color. So we have state and local, which is this thin band of red at the top. We have federal, which is this purple. We have household, which is the green. And we have business, which is the teal. All right, now, when we usually hear about debt on news reports, it's of one type of debt, the federal debt, or student loan debt, or credit card debt. But that doesn't help us understand the role that debt plays. In order to understand it, you have to look at all of it, all together, the combined debt. And in this case, in the last quarter of 2025, which is the latest information we have, the combined debt is $80.67 trillion. All right, now, the reason that you need to look at it as combined debt is because debt is all the same. Somebody borrowed money and somebody lent money. The lenders are the holders of the debt. So they're the ones who are going to benefit from the interest payments made on the debt. The borrowers are the ones who are going to have to pay the interest on the debt. And I'll tell you why that's important. It's because all of this debt is paid by all of us in one form or another. And in the case of some of this debt, it's taken out as bonds. Federal government, state and local governments, and some businesses will sell a bond. And that bond is a debt. It's a promise to repay at a set interest rate. The other part of the debt is loans by financial institutions, banks, credit unions. And it's through debt that money enters the economy for circulation. Without the money having been borrowed, there is no money to circulate. So, right here, this line represents the latest data. If I pull the cursor over here, it'll bring up the specific amounts for each one, for state and local, for federal, for household, and for business. All right, we're not going to look at those individually. They're all combined. And probably the most important feature of that I want to impart to you is that somebody bought the bonds and will earn the interest that results from the sale of those bonds, or the ownership of those bonds, excuse me. Financial institutions make the loans, and they benefit from the interest paid from those loans. So there's two beneficiaries of all this debt: bondholders and debt holders. All right, now, one more thing. Okay, I just entered 1952, quarter 4, into the dialog box up here. And this one says 2025, quarter 4. So this is the entire history of debt. And I want you to see something here. The debt starts out very small here in 1952. And it grows at what is called an exponential rate of growth. That means a curve that goes up and increases into the vertical to infinity. That is the line that our debt is following. Okay, now before I move on, I want to point out something else. All of our lives, we've all seen charts that look like this, in one form or another. And they all read basically the same. Two axes, one on a side, one across the bottom or the top, with different data sets and a point in time. Okay, so in this case, the bar on the left-hand side reads out in trillions of dollars in 20 trillion increments. So 20, 40, 60, 80. Across the bottom is a measure of time. 1959, 1969, 79, 1989, all the way to 2019, and then 2025 on the far right. All right, now, that's normal. We're all used to that. But I'm going to tell you right now, that's the wrong way to read a debt chart. Because debt is not something that climbs like this. It's nice to have a reference that looks like this, perhaps. But debt is a hole. If you go into debt, you're in a hole. You're not standing on level ground anymore. You just dug a hole and now you're standing in it. And until you pay off the debt, you're not standing on level ground anymore. So we're going to look at debt as it really exists. Here we have some Legos. I'm pretty sure that most of you are familiar with Legos. And I'm going to use these as scale models. This is a single row 4-point Lego brick. It is 0.378 inches tall. And that's the measurement that will be most important here. When 4 of these Legos are put together, they form a layer. As you can see here from the colors, we have purple here as a layer, red, purple, enough of a distinction to differentiate between the layers. And each layer here is going to represent $1 trillion in a new graph that we're going to build for debt. So the reason that we're using Legos for scale is because eventually I'm going to show you what it all looks like in the physical world. But I don't have enough Legos to do the full graph, only enough for 1 year. I don't know if you know this, but Legos have gotten really, really expensive. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid to get the Legos for the demonstration. I'll show you later. All right, now let's go to the computer. I apologized for the screen distortion. I'm using my phone to record this. I do not have any screen capture software. So we get this angular distortion here. But I think we can live with it. Okay. We have here what I call the level playing field. And it's dated from 1952 to 2025 at the very end here. And the generations are represented here on the sides. I have a double line separating the generations. Baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, Generation Z, and Generation Alpha. Now, I put a couple markers in here. This is where I was born, in 1961, at the tail end of the baby boomers. During Generation X in 1971, this is the Nixon shock. The gold standard is no more. And this spot here, in 1974 or 75, was the introduction of the tax-exempt retirement plans, the 401k and the IRA. And those will become important later on. All right, so using this level playing field, I'm going to bring in my version of the chart from the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. Here we go. Let's bring it. There we go. Okay, now, as you can see, from 1952, the debt is fairly small, but the economy was a lot different then, and it ramps up to quite a substantial amount. As I illustrated with my Lego blocks, we're going to zoom in over here. These are red and purple, red, purple. Each level represents $1 trillion. And this tallest of blocks is over $80 trillion in debt. Now, as I've told you before, this is actually not the correct way to look at a chart of debt. Debt is going up, yes, but debt is a whole. Now, before I switch this, I want to point out one more thing. This curve, which may be easier to see from a side view, this curve is what's referred to as an exponential curve. It will keep on rising at a sharper and sharper angle until it's going vertical into infinity. All right. This is the same level playing field, except that in this particular frame, I call it, in reality, the level playing field, or the even playing field. All right, now there is a line right here, and I am going to take away the green here. That line right there is level with the top of our even playing field. But I'm going to take away the green because it's a distraction for the moment. And I'm going to bring in how a debt chart should be read, which is like this. Since debt is a hole, the more debt you have, the deeper the hole. And indeed, in 2025, the debt being over $80 trillion, that is a very deep hole. Now I'm going to switch to side view. I'm going to get rid of the debt there and show you once again that line right there. All right, now this debt, if we look at 1952, is hanging down below this line. So that was the hole in 1952. 1953, 54, 55, 56, 57. And as we go further, you can see that the debt is getting larger. At no time in our history has the debt gotten smaller. Okay, now I've had to zoom out some because, as you can see, the debt just drops right off the screen here. All right, now this is a realistic way at looking at what debt is. It's a hole. It is a deep pit. And this is our history from 1952 to 2025. This is not fiction. This is not politics making promises. This is what's actually happened. And this will conclude this video on debt.